Spectrovision Radio.
Along the path we parted ways. I walk the night, you tread the day, and we forgot we slept in knots all on the sunset coast. We shared our meals, we shared our songs, by candlelight or by the sun. I know you've sung 1,000 more, oh, since the time you've gone.
Hello everyone, this is Chad Redding here, and we are this is episode 1 of the Ruck Rabbit Outdoors podcast.
All right.
Yeah? This is my partner, probably sometimes co-host.
I'd love to. Timothy Renner.
Timothy Renner.
Author, illustrator, podcast host, musician, anything. Too poor to pay anybody to make things for me, so I have to learn how to make everything myself.
Yeah. Basically, this is the creator of Strange Familiars.
Yeah. Which you've been on many, many times.
Yes. If you see a little head pop up, that is my dog, Toby. We are out here camping in Michaud State Forest in south central Pennsylvania. And what we're going to do in the Ruck Rabbit Outdoors podcast is we're going to interview common people. We're going to get their stories. Some of these people that come out here and do whatever they do, whether it's riding a bicycle or hiking, which is what you love to do.
Yeah, that's my main outdoor activity, I guess. Like
camping, wilderness skills like I do, foraging, any of that. We're going to talk to just the common people, get their stories, because a lot of these people have really cool stories that aren't recorded.
Not only that, but your approach, you talked to me about kind of what you wanted to do, and you said your approach is that it's not just to get the hardcore woodsmen, which is great too. I know you're going to interview some of them, but to talk to people who just like being out in the woods and out in nature.
Yes.
I think that's great. I think it's a big tent, that holds a lot of different kinds of folks that like to be out here,
And I'm sure for those who are fans of Strange Familiars, there will be some crossing over with the paranormal.
Can't help it.
It happens to us all the time. So, you just introduced yourself. You do a bunch of different things. Mm-hmm. What draws you to the outdoors, my friend? What brings you out here? Why do you do, and what do you do when you're out here?
It is very much like meditation for me, I think. I enjoy hiking. I grew up on a farm, and we were surrounded by acres upon acres upon acres upon acres of woods. And there was nobody my age around. I think I had friends up until I was about in 3rd grade, and then they moved away. And then from that point on, nobody my age. I had older brothers and sisters. They didn't want me hanging around them. So I was alone with a dog. And
we are right now, alone with a dog, and he's chewing on a stick.
What did I do every day? I'd pack a snack or pack lunch, or sometimes pack a snack and lunch, depending on what time in the morning I left. And I'd go to the woods and I'd wander. And it became my place of fun and of solace. And like I said, it became kind of like meditation, even prayer. You're just alone with nature sometimes, and there's something about it that's just so peaceful, and I feel it at home in a different way in the woods than anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. I'm like that too. I mean, that this especially where we're at, because this is my home woods, as I call it, mm-hmm. because this is one of my major hangouts and haunts here in Michaud, and I am more comfortable in these woods than I am in a town, sometimes in my own house, which is crazy, but I just love it out here. I just absolutely love it.
There's something about the draw, and we've had this conversation before. If I go, and I know you're the same way, if I go for a while and I don't have time in the woods, I'll start getting irritable. I'll start getting cranky. It helps me. It helps my mood. It helps my creativity. The best ideas I get are hiking. I'll be hiking, mm-hmm. and it might not even have anything to do with the woods. It's something else I'm working on, a song or whatever it is, and bam, like there the ideas come. It's because I think it's a place where everything calms down. You know, you're not rushing around. You're not running from place to place, figuring out, you know, what are we going to do for dinner? And we got to go to the grocery store. We got to go to the post office. We got to do this, do that. We're just out, and you can just put all that away and just be here with nature. I think there's something magical about it, quite honestly.
Yeah, I think a lot of the ways, as modern people, a lot of people separate themselves from this.
Oh, yeah.
We don't live seasonally like
not.
our ancestors did. I mean, when I say ancestor, right, even just 2 generations away,
Yeah.
they lived more seasonally.
We don't have to feel the seasons if we don't want. We don't have to be in darkness if we don't want.
No.
You know, you can have a same temperature all year round if you want in your house these days, you know?
And I think that is why we have some of the problems we have.
I agree.
In society, because we're not connected to where we should be. Mm-hmm. Whether it's the forest, the fields,
the desert, whatever that is.
Whatever that environment is.
Yeah.
We're just not where we should be. And I feel that people, it's important for people to connect with this again.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a short hike in the woods.
No, absolutely. Like I said, sometimes, if I get irritable, and I remember during COVID, especially the times, eventually we figured out we can go hiking, but in the beginning it was kind of weird and you didn't know where we were allowed to go and what was up, and there's like 3 acres or something of woods in a town, like behind my house. And even just, if I could just get a little walk in and just be in the trees for a while, I noticed my mood would just be so much better.
Yeah.
Now, if I can go to a place like this or get a bigger hike in, it's even better.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that was, it was better than nothing kind of thing. I just go out there and go, okay, I get to be in the woods for a little while at least.
And I'm like that too. Like, sometimes even a hike is not enough for me. Mm-hmm. I have to get out. I have to sleep out here. I got to forage something off the land. I like to, when I go, especially to a different place, like I was just down in West Virginia a couple of months ago, I went foraging and I found a pawpaw, and I like to make that connection with the land through foraging. That's one way for me to make that connection with where I'm at, and it feels better. We're laughing. My dog he's chewing, and he happened to get a pine cone. He's got some sap in his mouth.
He's making his connection with the land.
Yes. So we were camping this weekend, and it's been great. It was a little cold tonight. Last night it dropped down to 34. Yeah, almost freezing.
There's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing.
Yes,
or bad
exactly. Gear. Bad clothing, bad gear. Always be prepared for this stuff. One thing I don't like is what people call an outdoorsman or outdoors woman. I do not like the fact that they make it, the commercially especially, like the people that sell gear. Mm-hmm. You're not an outdoorsman, or you're not a backpacker unless you backpack the AT.
Right.
You're not a outdoorsman unless you are out hunting or fishing or something like that. I think that is wrong. I think that's false. I think an outdoors person is anybody who just enjoys being out here.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting at before. I think you phrased it better there. When you said that's kind of what this podcast is going to be about.
Yep, that's the mission of this podcast.
I love that. I love that because it's I think it's easy to get these ideas, whether you get them from wherever, from advertising or from a survivalist show or whatever it might be, that, you need to be hardcore, living off the land and all that. But there's lots of people who love it, who love going out for a day hike, or whatever form that takes for them.
To me, an outdoors person is anybody, or, let's just use a colloquial woodsman or woods folk for this environment here, is anybody who just enjoys being out here, whether it's just for the day, for a couple hours, and to me, that is an outdoors person. Mm-hmm. There are some people who do not like being out here.
Oh, yes.
And I feel bad and sad for them. They're really missing a lot. But that's what we kind of want to catch here with this. So anyhow, you said that before, spiritually, whether religious or whatever, this is a place for you. Mm-hmm. This is also an important place for you physically.
Yeah, for sure. I have MS, so it's I've had a couple severe attacks. One which temporarily took my ability to walk away, and I've always been in the woods. Like I said, I grew up on a farm. I've always done it, and when I had that attack, the thing that upset me the most, I found, was how am I going to hike? How am I going to get out there? Chad, to his credit, said, "We'll get you a three-wheeler or four-wheeler. You'll get out there anyway."
I'll offer it as far as it can with the Forerunner, and then get out the off-road wheelchair and push you out.
But no, more seriously, I it's really important for me. It's how I get my exercise. I do exercises, but I don't like doing any exercise. But hiking, I love hiking. Walking a little bit, but hiking much more. I have something about it. And like you were talking before, how you have round the neck bend syndrome. I have the same thing. I think that helps me. It keeps me going, helps me get that exercise. I want to just get out there and go. But that's the way I keep, myself moving. As I get older, especially, I have that drive to get every hike in I can.
And you have shocked me with the MS, and you do have some problems with your balance at times. I've seen it. I'm out there.
What this is for.
I'm out there with you 100, all the time.
Yeah.
And we've done some tough trails. I mean, what was that one? Shoals Rock.
Yeah.
Where I took you up, and then we're climbing.
Basically doing a little bit of rock climbing.
Yeah, hand over hand, and then I get at the top. I'm like, oops, there's an old forest road. I'm like, he's going to be mad at me now. But you were cool with it.
No,
and
I was glad we did it.
And you did that, and you like to challenge yourself at times.
I do. Part of it is, and I don't know if I would recommend people do this, but one of the things I do is I tend to like to get myself in situations that I have to get out of my own power. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably a reaction against the MS in a way. Let me make sure I can still do this. But I found I like it. One day I went really, really far, and I was went down a really steep into a ravine, into this creek bottom, and the only way out was back the way I went, and I was really nervous about it because it's a hard climb, and it was steep and rocky and everything else. And I said, well, I sat down with myself in the woods, and I talked to myself. It's like there's one way out of here.
The only way out is forward.
by your own power. You're not.
Yeah.
You got to get yourself out of here. And when I did it, I found something about it. I was like that. I really liked it. So not every time I hike, but every now and then I'll do that. I'll just kind of push myself and I like that. I like knowing like, okay, you're capable. You can do this. You just keep going and you got yourself into it. Get yourself out.
And I think that's why. How long have you had MS for now?
About 18 years, something like that.
And I think that's why you are in where you're at, because you push yourself. You didn't just give up. Some people would have just gave up. They just would have been like, I have MS. I'm done. I can't do this. And you don't do that. You don't do that at all.
And I will tell this story not to insult my mother. My mother raised 6 kids. She did her best, and she was a great person. But her mother had MS, and my mom had MS as well. And I remember when I was little, my grandmother, it was just, I love her so much, and she was like my favorite person in the family and probably anywhere. And she walked with a cane, and I said, Nana, why do you walk with a cane? She said, oh, I have MS. And that's the only time I ever heard that word come out of her mouth. Just that once, and it never stopped her from doing anything she wanted to do. She liked horses. She'd go to horse races all the time and do all that stuff. She never let it
Did she bet a lot of money?
She did. She lost a lot of money.
Did she ever win?
She went occasionally. She'd call me and ask for numbers. She'd give me some numbers, and if my numbers hit, she'd play my numbers. If my numbers hit, she'd give me whatever she wanted.
That's good.
But,
that's really good.
But my mom got it, and she kind of sat down and turned on the TV, and again, I'm not insulting her. Everybody has to deal with this the way that they deal with it. Mm-hmm. But when I got diagnosed, I literally thought, I said, well, I'm going to do it like Nana did it. I'm going to do it like my grandmother, and try to keep moving, and not let it slow me down as much as I can help it. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So now, let's talk about the thing that you're most famous for. Okay. Which is the paranormal. Mm-hmm. You know, and for anybody who don't know, Strange Familiars is a really cool podcast. Check it out. It's more than just the paranormal.
Yeah, we do some history.
Yeah, weird history.
Like that. And I hope our approach to the podcasting and the paranormal is somewhat unique. I think, and you do this with me all the time for the podcast. You're the main person who's done it with me, I think, more than anybody else. Is we try to go to these haunted places and record the podcast there. Mm-hmm. Haunted places, whatever, places of interest, whatever you want to call them. And we record the podcast at those places. Now, we can't do it all the time. You know, it just doesn't work out.
We do it as much as we can. And then especially if we have people locally that say stuff, we want to give us their stories. We try and go to the places if they're willing to. Because there are actually some people that were not willing to go to where they had, had their encounters.
I've had people quite frightened.
And we wanted them to tell us their stories in the place. Mm-hmm. In the place. Now, what made you take that approach? What was it about that approach that kind of kicked that off?
I had heard another podcast, my friend Clint's podcast called OK Talk, and he was playing clips from people that had recorded on their property. Mm-hmm. And that was, I loved it so much. I said,
now, what are we talking about? Bigfoot here?
Ostensibly.
Ostensibly.
Strange voices coming from the woods. They were calling it Bigfoot, but
encounters in the woods, we'll call it.
Who knows what it was, right? And they were having activity around this property and so forth. And I thought, and when I heard that, I was like, that's so interesting that they have the actual audio from the place. And I just thought, well, why don't I just go to these places and record, and then we'll do the podcast there. And most of the time, it ends up being a regular podcast, but sometimes you go to these places and stuff happens, and then you got it on audio. And I think we've gotten some pretty cool audio over the years.
Yeah, yes we have. Pandemonium.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Multiple spots in these woods. This is probably one of the most haunted forests in the area.
Yeah, I think so.
We actually call it the haunted forest for that reason. Actually had some stuff last night that was a little bizarre, but we'll handle that on Strange Familiars. That's not what this is. I found that once you've been in that realm, if there's something here, whatever it is, it likes to say hi.
Yeah, it's like once you start poking at it. Well, I always say it's like putting on the One Ring, in terms of Lord of the Rings. You put on the ring and that eye turns and looks at you. Oh, okay. It's kind of like that. But I think doing that also helped me. Not that I had ever stopped hiking, but I wasn't as like, I'm in much better shape for hiking now than I would have been before the podcast.
Yeah,
because doing that has kind of put me out in the woods more, and it's made me, it sort of reinvigorated that love again. So I really have the podcast to thank for that.
We're out here at night. Sometimes 1, 2 in the morning. It's cold. You, like me, do the majority of your stuff in the wintertime.
Yeah.
Because I hate the heat.
Heat's hard on MS.
And you don't like the heat either. But we've been out in these woods, like here. We've been in Gettysburg at the bridges. It's 15 degrees out.
Oh, yeah.
And we're walking around recording or just in researching stuff, checking things out. We've been doing that. And so we're out here doing the work. It's work. It is actually work.
Yeah, if and I have the greatest job in the world, so I'm not complaining. But I think sometimes people do get an idea if you hear an hour podcast with somebody spent an hour's time on, that's not the way it is.
No.
If you hear an hour
months,
podcast,
sometimes hours,
there's a lot that goes
days.
Into that, yeah.
So, but yeah, there's a lot about that. Also, another thing, you approach this from a folklore point of view.
Oh, that's very important to me.
I consider yourself a very, very good folklorist, and folklore is tradition.
Yeah,
and we kind of follow that. That's how we approach it. I'm saying we because you got me doing the same thing.
Sure, yeah.
And what got you into folklore? And what does the folklore say about the woods? which can also be like any kind of an environment where people have have lived, whether it's the mountains or the deep desert or anything like that. So what got you into folklore, and what does the folklore say about the woods?
Well, I didn't even know it was folklore when I was when I was a kid. Like somebody would tell me a ghost story, and they'd say, that happened at the old mill, down from the farm or whatever. And I'd be completely fascinated by it. I'd want to go there, and I didn't realize what it was called. So, in that idea, I'd been into folklore forever. But then I got into traditional folk music. And there's a saying in that world that a bad song doesn't get to become traditional. And I think it applies also to other folklore in that bad information doesn't get to become traditional. There's some exceptions, of course, with all this stuff, but in general, so it was that traditional folk music that sort of made me look at the other side and have this appreciation for the folk tradition, I think, in general, though I'd always been interested in that kind of stuff. But it really kind of my deep fascination for it probably would have started with traditional folk music. And then I'm looking at these folk stories, and a lot of them will be mirrored. There'll be a folk song that mirrors, this folk story and so forth. And they're teaching, and they're teaching about all different kinds of things, like whether it's, hey, that plant's going to make you sick.
Don't eat red berries in the woods, which is false, because there are some you can eat.
Right, but
but go ahead. It's a good general rule.
Yeah, it's if you're not going to take time to learn which ones you can eat, it's a good rule.
Yeah.
Anyways,
keep going. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get us off track.
Yeah, but, or like, hey, this plant is good for a headache, or this plant is good for if you have a fever, Or it can be, hey, there's weird stuff in the woods. Don't follow the lights. Don't do this. If you do this, here's a cure. If you feel like you're lost in the woods and you feel like you've been led by something, turn your clothes inside out. All these things, and it's these odd teachings that our ancestors handed down to us. And you think, well, that sounds like superstition or something. They knew what they were doing. That's my feeling of it. And they had hundreds, if not thousands of years dealing with this before we ever did.
Right. And when we say this, we mean everything.
Yeah, it's hard for me to, and I know you feel the same. It's hard for us to separate this stuff.
Yeah.
It all seems so similar. Like, Bigfoot acts like a ghost. UFOs act like a ghost. All this stuff, and after a while you go, hey, it's hard to draw these hard lines and say, this is Bigfoot, and this is a ghost, and this is something else.
Yeah, we look at it holistically.
Yeah.
So as all related, because we had multiple times, you especially, where you've had people who have had multiple encounters on their property with, like, Bigfoot. And then you always say, well, what else is there? And then we're like, well, I have a ghost in my house.
Right.
And I'm seeing lights in the woods.
Yeah.
So we have a tendency to look at this stuff as all interconnected.
Yeah, it really feels like it does. And truly, I think our ancestors felt that way as well. Because they would classify something. They'd say, maybe that's a fairy and that's a wild man. But they'd also tell you, you see lights with both of them. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So I think they had different names for stuff, but I think in general, like, for instance, with fairies, and for those who don't know, I'm not talking about the pretty little women that fly from flower to flower from Tinkerbell and like Victorian stuff.
Yeah, we're talking like the traditional
fairy. Yeah, they could be dangerous, and they came in all sizes and all shapes, and they took many forms. And so they would say, fairies. I lost my train of thought there.
You were saying about the fae.
Yeah, I know. But in any case, oh yeah, so they would call basically a big hairy thing in the woods that we would call Bigfoot. They would at some point call that a fairy, or a little thing, little imp kind of thing. They'd also call that a fairy. You know what I mean?
Well, brownies were traditionally
hairy.
Yeah, and about 4 foot tall. And here well, we're not in York County right now, but in York County and Lancaster County, we have our own little short, hairy cryptid called an albatwitch. But we'll talk about that later. But anyways, there's a lot of stuff that cross over.
Indeed, and I do think our ancestors would have recognized this stuff as maybe, if not all the same, part of the same thread, part of the same group of things. And they told us, many ways how to deal with this stuff, which we found it kind of works,
kind of follow the rules.
Yeah.
The rules established by our ancestors.
I've broken them sometimes. I've gotten
I have too, and
gotten my butt smacked.
You've been with me, and and I've broken them. And what was the one I asked for something, and then it got ticked off, and we have done some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So what is it about the forest in folklore that makes it like this kind of, I don't know, forbidden place? It's really not the right term.
Yeah,
but a place where stuff happens.
It's not so much forbidden, but it's a place that you should respect in folklore. There was an idea that here's where we live, and next to us, no matter where in the world you are, next to us is the wilderness, whatever form that takes, forest, desert,
mountains,
whatever it is.
Either one.
Yeah. The jungle, depending where you are.
Yeah.
And that belonged to usually whatever spirits were there. And when you go there with respect, and you go there with the knowledge that you're visiting. You're on someone else's turf, basically. And you're to do it with respect and honor and so forth. And they would lay out these rules, and you start breaking them, and you start having problems, with this stuff. Even down to, one that I put into practice is, it seems so strange, and the first couple of times you do it, you feel foolish, but it said if you have to relieve yourself in the woods, to announce it first, and then apologize after. It seems such a silly thing the first time you do it.
Yes.
I'm a crazy person. Now I'm talking to the woods.
We talk to the woods a lot.
But I think, and how do I know? I don't know. But I really think it has helped not only my connection to nature and to the forest, but I think it helps keep that tone of respect there, right? So even if you don't believe in these supernatural things, doing this practice, you're still keeping a tone of respect for nature. You're sort of keeping that level of respect there. So remove the supernatural. I think it sort of brings to mind, okay, I'm visiting, right? Yeah. And I should be polite.
And that falls in with even modern practices of backpacking, all it, the leave no trace. Mm-hmm. Leave it as best you can as when you've seen it. Clean up your trash, and that's what you would do in anybody's house,
right?
If you respect them. And it's all just about it's all just about respect. Mm-hmm. And that's the same thing when you say, well, sorry, and you're relieving yourself. You wouldn't just go into somebody's living room and
exactly.
Cut loose. So you're showing whatever, even just the land itself, respect.
Right.
And that goes a long way.
Yeah.
That goes a long way with anything.
Yeah.
Absolutely with anything.
For sure.
So you see yourself as an outdoorsman, correct?
Yeah, why not?
And your main way, like we said, is hiking.
Yeah, I will camp, but it's hard on me with the MS. I do like it, but mainly I'm a hiker, for sure.
Yeah. We're going to turn you into a camper. We're working on that one. Hey, hold on a moment here. The dog has an issue. Need to help him out. He's good now. Anyhow, so you're a hiker. Can you give me a story of one of the things that happened to you when you were hiking? And it doesn't have to be paranormal. If you were sitting around a fire and you were sharing, and we're sharing stories, which is what Strange Familiars is about, and that's what this is about too.
Yeah.
What would you tell them? What's a really cool story you would tell somebody?
Oh my goodness.
We got a lot of them. Hi.
Yeah. I'm just trying to pick one,
That's okay. There's no pressure.
So, the ones that tend to stick in my mind tend to be the ones that are a little more woo,
The dog's a little cold.
I've had, I've had some times where And, not to get, I don't want to get super religious or anything. Everyone should, follow their own path. I truly believe that. But if you look at the Bible, Jesus said to go to the wilderness to pray.
Yes.
He literally gave that instruction, and he led by example.
And
he would do that.
That's something, to touch on that, I think when you're out here, you're closer to God.
Entirely.
I know they say go to a church and all that stuff.
Churches are great. They're beautiful. They're beautiful, but there's something about, again, being alone in nature. And often when I hike by myself, the first thing I'll do is I'll say a rosary. I happen to be Catholic.
Yep.
I'll say a rosary.
We're both Catholic.
As I hike. And there's something about that connection. And I feel, look, who knows? But it just feels like, much more intimate. And it feels like it means so much more. Maybe it just means more to me, because I'm in a place I love. But there's something about that I absolutely love. But I've had some strange things happen, One day I was saying the rosary. I was in Hex Hollow. So it's there's a park next to a place where
We're explaining what Hex Hollow is.
a powwow doctor. So powwow is a Pennsylvania Dutch kind of folk healing
Tradition.
Yeah, and because these powwow doctors would often deal with hexes, if someone felt they were hexed, they would go to the powwow doctor to remove it. So some of the idea was like, if you can remove it, you can also cause it, right? So some of them were held in suspicion. Well, one of these guys, at some point, somebody decided that he had put a hex on them, and they went and they killed him. And
this happened in 1927?
28.
28? Okay, I was close. Close, 27. I knew it was late 20s.
And that became, the area that he lived in was Raymeyer's Hollow, and it's been called Hex Hollow.
Ever since then.
Yeah. So I was hiking there one day, and I had just said a rosary, and I was on like these switchbacks, and I looked behind me, and I saw a guy, I don't know, 100 yards back, 75 yards back, something like that. And I took a few steps, and I looked back, and he had closed that gap. He wasn't running, by the way. He was walking. He had closed that gap so quickly that I was confused. I was like, how did he do that? Like, he wasn't entirely up on me, but he had gotten more than halfway to me in like 10 steps or something like that.
Right.
Like I went up to the next switchback, and all of a sudden he's like, I just going around the switchback, and I look down, and he's right there. So now I'm thinking, like, this guy is like really on my tail. What's he doing? And I picked up the pace, and I went the rest of the switchbacks, and I got on the straightaway, and looked back, and he wasn't there. And there's nowhere else to go. And I quickly looped around. I was like, I want to see who this guy is or what he's doing, And I quickly looped around, and I had no clue where this guy went, what he did, and like I looped back as fast as I could. I should have been able to see him wherever he was. I should have been able to see him behind me too, because I had to go down. Once I hit a straightaway, I had to go down a long slope.
Yeah, this isn't a huge area.
No, not at all. No, I should have been able to, if he was behind me, I should have been able to see him. If he turned around, I should have run into him when I looped back. And there was nowhere else to go. I just don't know. It was a very strange, and something about it gave me the chills. When I saw him, the first time a little bit, when he closed the gap, but then when I looked down on that, and that switchback, and he was right there, something about that just gave me the chills. He didn't seem to care. He wasn't looking at me or anything.
Yeah, he was just doing his thing.
Yeah, but he was way faster than a person should have been, unless he was running like Usain Bolt, whenever I turned my back. I don't know, but that was an odd one. That was a strange one. But I've had, just very odd things where I've been hiking and I found, so on Toad Road's another place we go.
That's another place of local tradition in York County.
Yeah, a lot of legends associated with what you hear on the internet. It's
Listen to Strange Familiars, you'll get the proof.
Yeah.
Or the truth, and it's the actual history.
Yeah, it's what it is. It's a tow road for it runs next to Cador's Creek. It was the tow path for the barges they pulled.
Yep, there was a canal and all that there, and
they would run from York out to Cador's Furnace in the Susquehanna River, barges, but there's low spots in it, so they would have to have this tow road so they could tow. They put mules or horses and they tow the barges. And sometime over the whispering down the lane, somebody said tow road and somebody else heard Toad Road, and I believe that's how it became known as Toad Road. There's a lot of legends about insane asylums burning and all that, so that's not true.
Yeah. Like I said, to get the real history, check out Strange Familiars.
But I was there one day with a friend, and I was hiking, and it's an out and back hike, and I like to do the entire road at least once a year. And I'd gotten on it, and we hiked, and for some reason he didn't want to do the whole hike, and it was towards the end of April, I remember. Or it was towards the end of March, rather. And I said, okay, well, let's come back and finish it next week. I'm weirdly obsessive about I have to do the whole thing. And I called him the next week, and he couldn't do it. And I called him the week after that, and he couldn't do it. And I said, well, I'll do it myself. I'm going to go by myself and do it. When I was there with him, on the way out, right in the middle of the trail was a raccoon skull. And I didn't see it on the way in. And I've been collecting skulls. As long as they're clean, I don't like gory things. As long as they're nice, clean, sun-dried skulls, I've been collecting them since I was a little kid. I like to draw them, stuff like that. Very unusual that I would step over one in the middle of the trail. I mean, it was in the middle of the trail, like just perfectly placed in the middle of the trail. But it's possible. I could have. Very unusual. As we're coming back, so we went out, and as we're coming back, we hit what I call the wall of stink, which you've experienced before. It's very strange. It's about, 2 feet wide or something.
It's not always in the same place.
No.
So if you hike Toad Road, you're not going to walk into a wall of stink.
Right.
We're just saying that's like a paranormal thing or a strange thing. Strange is probably a better word.
Yeah.
A strange thing that you can run into.
Yeah, you can step into it, smell like rotting flesh or, BO and rotting flesh all together. And then step out of it on the other side as you're walking through the trail. And then turn around and walk back into it and smell it again. It's the oddest thing. And
a lot of times there won't be a dead animal or anything there. It's an unknown smell.
Yeah.
It's horrible, but you don't know where the source is.
Yeah, and it's very odd that it's centralized, Mm-hmm. If you step 1 foot that way, you won't smell it, which I don't think smells normally work that way. Usually
they kind of
they dissipate.
Yeah.
You smell. So smelled that, had that happen, then I found this raccoon skull. That's really? Oh, isn't that cool? Here's a raccoon skull, and I put it in my pack. And again, he wouldn't come back the next week. So then I said, well, I'm going myself. And I went out there, and by this time it was early April, and things had already started growing up. Mm-hmm. So the brush is it grows up quick.
Yeah, it gets very thick.
There.
I've been there with you.
Yeah.
It gets really thick. And
I get on let's call it a road. At this point, it's in places barely a trail.
Yeah,
I mean, this is not a public hiking trail.
It's old roadbed.
Yeah.
Is the best way to describe it.
And I get to about the place where I found that raccoon skull, and I heard something. I looked up. We get a noise as soon as I say that. I looked up, and I saw something big. I was headed south on the trail, and it went south. It was very big and very quick. And was it Bigfoot? I don't know. It was bigger than anything that should be in the woods where we are.
Right.
But I just didn't get a
good
look at it.
It wasn't a deer or anything like that.
If we had elk, maybe, and I say that because it moves sort of like a moose. Like it had I don't know if you've ever seen a moose.
Yeah, they have that
like sort
weird,
of awkward gait to it.
Yeah,
and it moved kind of like that. And I'd seen a moose hiking in Massachusetts, and I was like, it moved like a moose, but super quick, like super fast. And I followed after it, and this really wasn't out of bravery. Something in me just clicked, and I went as fast as I could, which isn't, rocket speed. I wasn't running, but I was, picking through the stuff as fast as I could. And I finally got to a place, and I probably followed a quarter of a mile or something. When I say followed it, I went in the direction in which it went. I never saw it again. And probably a quarter of a mile, maybe a half mile, I've run into this deer skull at eye level, impaled on a branch in the middle of the trail. It had like some kind of dried flower or something placed like where the third eye would be. And it stopped me in my tracks, not because I was afraid at all.
Just because the unusualness of it.
It was unusual. Like I said, this isn't a public hiking trail. Yes, someone could have gone down there and done that, but why? You know, it's private property. No one's supposed to be there. And I got it. And again, whatever feelings are worth, the feeling I got is whatever was there said, oh, you like that raccoon skull? Well, I'll give you something you're really going to like. And there was this big deer skull. I put it in my pack. I still didn't finish the hike because I was so excited about the deer skull. And I sort of like turned around and was like all excited about it.
Woohoo!
And the thing about that is it kicked off, and you experienced a lot of this, for about a year and a half after that. I found skulls literally almost every time I went out for a hike, but the bigger percentage was when I went on paranormal investigations. And probably a conservative estimate is probably 80%. It was probably more than that.
Yeah.
That I would find skulls every time. And it's like this, it kicked off something.
So most people will have Bigfoot flaps or UFO flaps. You have skull flaps.
I had one at least, and it lasted a long time. And it seems to have died down now. I don't know why or for what reason. But it was so strange. And it was, I remember a guy here in the show was taking me, he had 3 or 4 different places that he had sort of Bigfoot encounters. One he had a visual sighting, one he was screamed at, and one was just, it was some other kind of third-class encounter. Yeah. And he took me to, and every place we stopped, I found a skull. I remember he's like, what is going on with you? I was like, I don't know. It's literally every place we stopped. And again, you, like lots of times with you, I was like, hey, here's a skull.
Yeah. And I even had that for a little while too.
Yeah.
You bled over on me.
Yeah, I think sometimes this stuff can be kind of contagious.
Yeah, we run into that a lot though when we do our investigations. Is we'll go through themes.
Yeah.
You know, we had snail shells for a while.
Yeah, that was...
It's weird. It's like I don't know if it's a flap or... the flap's not a word. It's more of a theme.
Yeah,
and it'll last a while, and it'll just kind of dissipate, and it'll stop. And then something else will happen, and, you know, we get this stuff. And it's weird how it works. You know, it's very cyclic, this stuff. But, yeah.
But that's one of my favorite ones because it started in the woods, but then it carried over to these... You know, so Michaud, where I was finding skulls, nowhere near Toad Road. Yeah. And I was finding them in northern York County. I was finding them, you know, in Hexhall. It kind of kicked off this thing that bled in Maryland. You know,
you mean Pennsylvania?
That's another show.
That's another show. We're fighting Cressup's War. If you were curious, just look it up. Look up 1730 Cressup's War. Anyhow, sorry, I had to take the shot.
But no, it was so neat because it seemed like it started with that raccoon skull and it just continued for like a year and a half. And I was telling the story up at camp before during the pandemic. My daughter doesn't much like to hike. And she said, Dad, I want to find skulls like you do. This is back during the pandemic. I said, well, you got to go on a hike with me. Oh, okay. And again, we went to that 3 acres of woods, you know, right in my neighborhood, kind of behind my house. And we went there and we did the 3 acres and we're about ready to leave. I was like, well, you can't win every time.
No, you can't.
And then looked over and right on the log, there was a fox skull. Like I said, there you go.
You can't make that up.
I said, there's your skull. And she said, Dad, that's incredible. Like I said, I don't know how this works. But I said that she got her fox skull. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. But it has died down, which is that's interesting to me too. Like I don't know why it's would have died down, why it stopped, but
it's always the most insignificant things, even though finding a skull is not insignificant, that just kind of have meaning, you know. And we'll have stuff happen, and at first it won't have meaning, and then we find out later on that it does.
Yeah.
So, you know, we had some stuff happen within the last 24 hours we weren't planning on. You know, we just come out here, and I'm interested to see what happens with that.
Yeah,
you
for
know.
Sure.
But That's awesome. I appreciate you coming by here.
Well, thanks for having me. I look forward to helping you with the show.
Yeah, it would be kind of neat to see how what you bring to the table. You know, a different perspective to the outdoors and others, and
anything that promotes that appreciation. If we can get one person watches this, right, and decides, I need to spend more time in the woods.
Yeah, that's the goal.
We've done our job.
That's the goal. We want to show that anybody can consider themselves an outdoorsman, because it's too often, I feel, like I said at the beginning, I feel like there's so much pressure. You're not a real backpacker unless you do the AT, and you have to do it in one shot. No, do it in sections. If all you can do is day hike and you travel and you drive and you do a section of the AT, that's all that matters. Yeah, just get out.
I don't know.
Just enjoy this.
Whatever time I have left, I'd love to think that maybe I could do the AT. But what I know I can do, and what I'd love to do with you, I talked to you about this, is we can do the AT through Pennsylvania. We can do that whole stretch.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And that's completely doable.
And we can start right here. It actually starts in coming into Pennsylvania here in Michaux.
Yeah.
And the halfway point is actually in Michaux State Forest.
For the whole AT.
Yes. Yeah. For the whole entire AT.
Yeah. They have the museum there and everything.
Yes. Yeah. And we're going to touch on that too, I think, a little bit. So thank you for coming along.
Absolutely.
We'll see more of you. I'm going to have you as a co-host. It'll be interesting to see what you bring to the table.
For sure.
And it's
happy to do it.
Yeah. And it was, fantastic. And as far as frequencies on episodes of this, we're going to be starting out. We're going to try and do once a month right now, because we're busy. I'm busy. You're busy, and we're just going to try and see if, how it takes off. We're going to do once a month. If it kicks off and it really starts taking off, we're going to start doing 2 weeks, every 2 weeks, and we're going to build up to that point. And if it's just once a month, I'm okay with that. And like I said, get out, enjoy us. And I say at the end of all my YouTube videos. And where can you catch this podcast? It's going to be on YouTube, on the Ruck Rabbit Outdoors channel. It will be there. I'm working with you and trying to get it.
Yeah, we'll get you to
out there
where you get the normal
podcatchers. Well. So it will be available in audio form too. Mm-hmm. But we're going to be doing video, so will be the majority. So if you want to see whoever we're talking with and where we're at, and we're going to try and do as many of these on-site places like this. There are some people I'm going to have to talk to through the computer, through internet, because I have a friend in England. Check him out. Man of Tanith, he calls himself. Got a great perspective of what the outdoors is. He is a woodsman, a bushcrafter, whatever term you want to use. We don't want to be hung up on terms here. And he's got a really awesome perspective. I want to talk to him. And that's probably going to have to be on the computer, because I don't think I'm going to be able to fly to England anytime soon.
Yeah, it's like with Strange Familiars with the on-site episode. I would love every episode to be on-site.
Yeah.
It just can't be.
Yeah, but we're going to do what we can, and some of them will just be us talking with a fire. Either way, we're going to do what we can. So thank you for listening or watching. Thank you for coming once again, Tim.
Sure, happy to do it.
And get out, enjoy this, and fair weather and safe journeys. Boom. How was that?
And so it is, you've flown away, my friend. I think on you today. I hope sometimes you sing my songs all on the sunset.